What you need to understand about Texas courts when it comes to parental alienation is Texas does not recognize parental alienation as anything relative to the law. But the elements of parental alienation are what you need to document, because the elements are in the penal code, in Texas family code, and you can find them all over the civil code. It's misrepresentation, committing fraud to cause harm on another individual, defamation of character, abuse, child abuse, abduction from custody, or interference with child custody. These things happen, the reason why Texas doesn't recognize it is because even though Texas favors the mother, I don't think that they really care as long as the most evil person wins at the end of the day. And that's really what it comes down to, because when it comes to the interest of the children, Texas doesn't give a damn. CPS doesn't give a damn. The courts don't give a damn. They want to act like they do for public perception, but in reality, they don't give a damn. You're thinking about interest as if, it's something that you have an emotional attachment to, or you love your children, or for the best of the children. Texas doesn't care about that. They care about the money they're making. They care about the bonds that are getting printed, and the money that they're printing based on those bonds. Because it is a very well known fact that all court cases lead to bonds, and bonds are what's called evidence of a debt. And they sell those bonds and the Treasury prints money. And that's how our national debt goes up. Not because not enough people are paying taxes. And the child support system is directly linked to parental alienation. The child support system that we have in this country was developed by the American Bar Association. They wrote it, and then all the states had to adopt it. And and how that works. And so child support was developed in 1975. Parental alienation was identified first by whatever doctor it was in 1985. And it is a direct link to child custody over child support. People are greedy, so the most narcissistic, greedy person wins at the end of the day, and it's a war. It is a psychological war, and they use your kids as the flaming arrows. And even though I won custody of all three of my kids, I did it because I had a good footing and I stood strong. And my ex-wife, she was a complete wreck, and was doing a lot of bad things. And so it was, after a year of litigation over the divorce, they finally caved. She went through two lawyers that let her go. And then finally, her last lawyer, that lady ran for Republican judge on the county court at law in Burnett County this past election for that seat. She did not care that her client was doing very bad things. Let's put it to you that way. And she's a pit bull. And it turns out that after my kids were abducted from my custody, that attorney that I hired, one of the most well-known law firms in the Hill Country, um, the lady that I hired is good buddies. How I heard it was drinking buddies, and I've got Facebook pictures of them together and all that stuff. So they were good friends. So there was no way my attorney was fighting for my interest or my children's interest. She was fighting for her best friend's interest. And to boot, years later, they ended up putting in court orders with my name attached to it as a forgery on a blank sheet of paper in between pages 34 and 35. You ought to check it out. I'll put a link in the bio, but yeah, Burnett County Cause 34767. If you want to know the nightmares the court will put you through, they ended up putting me in prison because I exposed them. and the Attorney General's office was involved in the production of fraudulent orders. They gave away, zeroed out $10,000, $9,000 of child support arrears that was owed to me, and they did all kinds of dirty tricks. It was awful. And just because I took a stand, they put me in prison as soon as I filed my appeal. I got indicted 5 days later. $185,000 bond. You would have thought I would have killed somebody. All of that for taking a stand. So the Texas courts love parental alienation. They make so much money. The Texas Attorney General, their office, the Office of the Attorney General, they get paid. Their agents get paid. A special account in the state treasury gets paid by the federal government for every bit of child support that they collect, and for every child support case they help prosecute. They get paid. They do not care about the interest of the children. They do not care about which parent is the best. They care about which one they're going to get the most, quote unquote, incentives off of from the federal government. And it is a nasty, nasty game, and it is a war. And you just have to stand strong, document everything. That was one of my biggest mistakes over the past 15 years is I let go of a lot of documentation, just thinking, I just want to move on with my life. And I want my kids to be okay. And I don't want a war. I don't want to, this is not my fight. I never wanted it to begin with. But it was a war that is still being fought today. And I am on parole now. I spent 11 months in prison. They tried to give me 20 years for exposing them. So their Texas courts, the judicial system, the Office of the Attorney General it's all a sham. It's just a sham. And but what you need to know about parental alienation in Texas is, even though they don't recognize it, all the elements that make up parental alienation are against the law. You've got to read the Texas Family Code, read the Penal Code. You've got to read it. Go into Google Scholar, look at case law. That's what all the attorneys do when they go to law school, is study procedure and case law. So you've got to go in there and you've got to study for yourself, because I was an engineer and I hired attorneys and I let the attorneys do the work, and they misrepresented me and put forgery court orders into the court years after I talked to them, years later. And because I figured it all out, I figured out what everybody did, who, how, what was against the law, every part of it, what my ex-wife did that was against the law, what her attorney did, what my former attorney did, what the assistant attorney generals were doing that were against the law, what the judges were doing, every bit of it. I figured it all out, and I got indicted 5 days later. So stand strong, people, and document everything.